Every runner has a story. What about you? What's your story? Running isn't easy. We've all overcome struggles to get to where we are. Maybe you're struggling now. What is it that stands in your way of reaching your full potential as a runner? And are you willing to do what it takes to get there? If you're not sure, listen to this story about how this runner overcame an obstacle that seemed absolutely impossible. And remember, if they can do it, you can do it too. What are your running goals? Do you need help recovering from a running injury? Do you need help developing a training plan? Maybe you've never ran before and you just want to get started. Let us help you reach that big goal of yours. Here at Body Smart, we help runners maximize their performance and stay on the road. To learn more, ask questions, or to set up your first free appointment, go to bodysmartutah.com or call us at 801-479-4471.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Running Unbroken podcast. My name is Dr. Cameron Garber. I'm here with Mark Humbert, and we're from Body Smart, and we have a special guest today, Amy Cook, and she is an awesome runner here in this area, and we are excited to have her on to talk more about her story and how she became a runner and how she uses running in her life. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a goofy thing to be on and tell your story and everything, but we love sharing kind of different runner stories and how they got to running. It's different with every person. You know, I grew up hating running, to be honest, because I played a lot of team sports, and they were like the punishment for poor performance. So if you screwed up, you had to go run laps. Right. And so I always associated running with like screwing up and torture and whatever. Yeah. And I hate it now when coaches use that. I've even talked to a few of them, actually, of my kids' coaches, like, hey, let's not do that. Like, let's not make the kids hate running. But so I came to it much later in life. Tell us the background of your running journey. How did you come to running?
So I started when I was probably in middle school, and I came from team sports too. I did softball and basketball, and I just kind of started in 7th grade. At the middle school, you were able to do cross country. And I only did it because my older siblings did running, and I just needed something to pass the time to basketball seasons until basketball season started. So I just thought, okay, I'll do cross country. And I really liked it, but I still love basketball more. But then like my freshman year of high school, I dislocated my shoulder really bad. And so I couldn't really keep going with basketball. And I even got it fixed, and it still kept popping out. So I have problems with my shoulder back then, and still to this day kind of a little bit. But so pretty much I decided to switch gears and just focus on the running. And it turned out that it kind of woke me up inside. Something woke up in me, and I just kind of started running full time. And in high school, I got really into being competitive in it and I wanted to beat people in it. So I just kind of went after it. And then my senior year of high school, I decided to pursue a scholarship somewhere. I kind of wanted to come to school in Utah. So I looked at BYU or University of Utah or Utah State. And Weber State was the one that kind of came on a recruiting trip to Weber State, and really liked it, really liked the coaches, the atmosphere, and all the ladies in it. And so I ended up getting a scholarship to Weber State, and
they have a great program.
Yeah, they do. So, at the time, it was Coach Blaisdell who was my coach. Now it's Paul Pilkington. Paul Pilkington took over actually my junior year at Weber State, so he was also my coach too. But so anyway, loved it, and then I just kind of stuck around with running ever since, and that's where awesome. I met my husband Riley, and he ran at Weber State too, and we're a track team romance. So
there are several
long bus rides. So you just kind of fall in love on those bus rides to different meets and things like that. So anyway, just kind of stuck with it, and then kind of took breaks here and there when I had babies.
Yeah.
Actually, after Weber State, I got burned out and took a few years off.
Which is probably pretty
And
common.
then and then had a couple babies and decided I needed to get back into some running again. So
you grew up in Washington, correct?
yeah, so
Yeah.
I grew up in Washington. I should have said that. Yeah, I grew up in Washington State.
Yeah.
So came from Washington State to Utah.
Yeah. So I know of some of her family members because I went on a LDS mission with
My brother.
your brother and your cousin, right?
Yeah.
And so kind of funny,
Yeah.
in small world. I saw her name. So she's Amy Blodgett Cook, right?
Uh-huh.
And I saw Blodgett and was like, there's not very many Blodgetts that I've ever heard of or known.
Especially
So-
from Kennewick.
Yeah, that's true.
Where I'm
And Kennewick,
from.
Washington, yeah. And so
Yeah.
I was like, hey, do you happen to know Ryan Blodgett? And she's like, well, yeah.
My brother.
Quite well, in
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah, so it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Ryan and Kyle, right?
Yeah, so
So-
they sing and or play the guitar. I can't do any of that. They're
Yeah.
really
They're fun.
they're good at entertaining and
Yeah.
they're athletic too. Ryan is athletic. If he sees this, he would want me to mention he's athletic too. So,
Disclaimer:
he
Ryan
is,
is
he's athletic too, but he does. He can sing and play guitar in his musical, but
Right.
I can't at all. They make fun of me because of how lucky I am.
Oh, that's fun. Well, they were a ton of fun. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how I reached out to you at first. It was like, hey, do you happen to be, you
Yeah.
know these guys?
I know, it's such a small world. That's
yeah,
funny.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But cool guys. And so what was that like living in Utah and stuff like that? Was that a weird transition or
Not really, because
not too bad?
my freshman year, we had so many girls come from different states. We had some from Idaho, Montana, California. Soraya, my friend, Soraya Long.
Yeah.
She came from California. So we actually all came from different places, different states or surrounding states. And we were able to all room together. And so we were all kind of in this together. Like usually Weber State's known as a commuter school. So a lot of the kids in the area are coming. But for me, I was lucky.
Just Weber.
Yeah. That's true. No,
That's
so
what
I
it is.
was
Oh, just Weber.
just a commuter school. No, Weber's an awesome school.
Yeah,
But
I love it.
yeah, so but it kind of worked out that I had some good friends that
That's
I was
awesome.
able to room with, and we were all kind of in it together, getting into running a freshman in college and things
Yeah.
like that. So
Cool. And
It's good.
Soraya was on the team the same time as you. That's
yeah,
awesome.
we came through
All
together.
together. Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
I've been running with her since freshman year, and she's always been faster than me. So
She's fast.
she's a fast runner, so she's good.
Yeah, she has a lot of grit, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. She's great.
Oh, that's
So,
cool.
yeah.
Well, so how did your collegiate running career go? Any milestones, anything there?
Yes. Well, I was happy with it. I had a lot of ups and downs. I think I placed in conference almost every year for track and field in like
Cool.
the 1500 or the steeplechase. So those were my two main events in track and field. So I usually placed in the top 8 in those events at conference. Cross country, I kind of struggled off and on. I had mono my sophomore year.
Oh.
So I didn't really have much of the season cross country my sophomore year. But my senior year, fifth year, senior year of cross country, I actually I hit all conference and conference there, which was,
That's
I ran
awesome.
8th. And that was probably my best race. I ran like a 17:30 5K on grass. So that was
That's awesome.
that was probably my best race. And then I had a few good steeple races, but I actually discovered, so I got married at the end of my sophomore year. Riley and I got married, and maybe this is too much detail. I shouldn't be posting, but I did get on birth control that time, but and I was on it for like 2 years, my junior and senior year, and they were kind of not great years for me running wise. And I found out towards the end of my senior year of track, my mom called me and she's like, I think there's just something wrong because you're just not yourself. And it turns out the birth control was messing too much with my hormones and all this stuff. So I got off it. And then I was able to come back and have that really good cross country season my 5th year. So to any girls, I mean, I would figure that out before you jump in that. But anyways, I wish I would have figured it out sooner because I think I would have I had still like some good races here and there, but I just wasn't consistent.
Right.
And so I wish I would have figured it out sooner. Because
Right.
as soon as I got off it was a total 180 and I was able to.
Birth control is rough.
Yeah.
It
So-
is not. My wife Love you, honey.
I know.
My wife is crazy on birth control.
I am too. And so,
it's not good.
I had to get off it. I know this is probably not the direction you wanted to go.
No, it's great.
It's good to know. It's a good thing to be aware of. Because if you're not, it can really case in point.
It could be. It's better now. I don't know. It's maybe changed now. I don't know. But it just didn't work for me. It just didn't. Hormones just didn't work for me, and so I got off it. And it was a complete 180. So it was better, and
finding a method that works that isn't always the pill is a good idea sometimes, right? It's crazy how much it messes with your hormones and screws everything up. I agree. But so that's interesting that you were able to overcome that and like figure that out and then have a great season.
Yeah. And I did actually have a stress fracture in there somewhere. My junior year of cross country. So another cross country season that was kind of down the drain was my junior year where I was dealing with a stress fracture in my femur. And that was caused because I jumped, because right after I got married, I took a couple weeks off or actually probably like a month off in the summer and jumped right back in with my team who was already up to like 60 miles a week. And I jumped in at like 50 to 60 miles a week where I should have built up gradually. And I broke down.
There's your lesson, folks.
Yeah. So
we see that all the time.
Yeah. So that was a lesson I learned from that
I see that with collegiate athletes a lot, actually. So they get the all clear that like, okay, you can go back to running and they just kind of rejoin the team.
Yeah.
And it's maybe not quite the way to do it just because, the increase in mileage is so dramatic from like 10, 12 miles a week in therapy and stuff like that. They're letting you run a little bit and then it's like, okay, think you're good to go. And it's like, okay, 20 miles a week to 50 miles a week, 60 miles a week.
I think it was just the idea of, my teammates are here. I need to be here with them.
Right.
And so, but really you should just say, no, I was like, I'll catch up with you guys when I catch up with you guys, but I need to run, run maybe 5 miles today, whereas you guys are running 10. And I didn't have the foresight back then, but I do now. And so now it's more, okay, I'm coming back from taking a break, so I need to build it back up again slowly. And so that caused me a stress fracture by just jumping in, trying to do 60 miles a week or whatever they were doing.
Yeah, I wonder how much the birth control affected that too. Your hormones being different. It could have been.
That was right after I started it, so it could have been that too. So
contributed anyway, right? Yeah, interesting. Okay, so I had a good collegiate career and everything. Finished strong your senior year.
Yeah, I finished strong. That was good. That was probably one of my best races. Was that Big Sky Conference?
That's
cross
awesome.
country.
So, go ahead.
No, so I'm just interested. Like you mentioned that kind of getting you to running was that competitive edge. You did it all through college and then took a break. So tell us a little bit about what kind of how that the mental shift in running in college versus hey, I want to pick it back up later, right? Like you said, you had some kids, you wanted to get back into it.
Yeah.
How did you approach running differently in those two phases?
Yeah, so I kind of look at it as in college, I was running because I had a scholarship. And so it was kind of like I was getting paid to run. And so I was like, I had to be at practice every day. I had to do this and weight lift and to do all these different things. And so there was a lot of pressure to do all that in fun stuff, which was really fun. But afterwards it kind of got burnt out. And then when I had a couple babies, I had gained a lot of weight. And my husband too, he took a break for a long time after running too. So when you talk to him next week, you'll have to ask him, but he actually was really into indoor soccer and he was starting to get too heavy that these guys were beating into the ball and he didn't like that. So he's like, I'm going to start running again. So you'll have to ask him about it next week. But so he's like, I'm going to start running again just so I can beat these guys to the ball. He's like, I don't like them beating me to the ball. And so, and then it kind of, so you'll have to ask him about that. I won't tell his story.
Your wife said you were fat and slow.
I know. But anyway, sorry. But I had a couple of babies and I had gained a ton of weight. And I was like, I need to get back out and running again. So I started running again and I was super heavy. And it was so much fun feeling heavy while running, but it was fine. So, but really a lot of my motivation came from seeing Riley start to become successful in running again. And some of my friends like Soraya, for example, and Janae and things like that. And I just kind of thought, well, I'm going to start setting some goals for myself and see what I can hit. So they were, just realistic goals, like a 130 half for realistic for me, 130 half. I know that's not for everyone, but, and so I worked towards that and I hit it. And then I decided, okay, I want to try for 125. And so really motivation for me comes from just hitting my goals. So I'm very goal oriented.
Cool.
And so post Collegiate, it's been all about hitting my goals and seeing how much I can push myself to get there. So, so really I started getting more into it probably after my fourth kid, because I was just kind of in between babies. I'd run, but then I'd get pregnant. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. I'll keep running just to keep running. But anyway, so after my fourth one, I really was like, okay, I want to really hit some goals and achieve something here. And so the first thing was I wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon. So I ran the St. George Marathon and ran 2:59 there.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, that'll be good to get
That'll
me
do
in.
it.
So that'll get me in. So I got in and I ran Boston, and that was such a fun experience.
Isn't that a cool?
Yeah,
It's
it
a
was
cool
so
race.
awesome. I mean, I wasn't that one. I was just kind of like, I just want to get this. I had a goal in mind. And it was actually a lot harder course than I thought. So
it's brutal.
It is.
It's a tough
Everyone
course.
says it's net downhill, which it is, but then just
Yeah,
those
the
rollers
rollers,
and then
you
where
never-
they're at later in the race, the heartbreak hill and everything,
Yeah.
it just kind of. But
You
I
never get
still
into
ran
a
okay.
groove, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you never
just-
get into a groove, and I'm one that likes to get into a groove. But anyway, I had such a fun time at Boston, and it was a good atmosphere and everything. But anyway, I just keep trying to hit my goals, and so I just set new goals every year, and that's kind of what motivates me, is just hitting those times and goals. And this year I've set some loftier ones and see
Nice.
if I can hit them. So
Yeah, that's fun. So with setting those goals, what types of setbacks then have you had, and how do you deal with that? Like, I know you've had some injuries or some other things like that over time. Like, what do you do when you have a setback?
Yeah, so let's see, 2019 probably was when, so I ran Boston and took a little bit of a break, but I knew I wanted to run like a faster half. And so I was kind of going to focus on a half marathon after Boston in 2019. So I started going again, training, and I ran a half, and it wasn't what I wanted at all. It was like, I had been training for like 3 years now. I was like, I should be faster than this. I kind of feel like, but, and just talking to Riley's a big help for me, because he kind of brings me back from my spirals a little bit. Like if I've had a bad workout or if I've had a bad race, he's just like, you know what, you're gonna get there. He reminds me too that he's had a lot of setbacks. People look at him and think, oh, he's so fast and has these fast times, but people don't realize he's had like 5 failed marathons where he's had to drop out and things have gone wrong and things like that. But so I'm reminded of that too when I have a bad race or a bad workout. I'm just like, okay, I got to shake it off.
Mm-hmm.
That's done. It's over. Now I can be mad about it for a day, and then it's time to move on and try again. So I usually just have to pick myself up, dust off, and just say, okay, just let it go. You're faster than that.
Yeah.
So
We all
you just
have
have
bad
to,
days.
you just have to pick yourself up and go. Everyone's going to have a bad workout once in a while. Everyone's going to have a bad race. That's not going to go well. That's going to feel crummy. And so you just have to, you can be mad about it for a day, but then you just got to look towards the future and say, okay, no, I can do this. I feel fine. I'm fit, and I can do this. It's kind of, that's kind of where I go when
That's
I
good.
struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
And I did have a race I was signed up for that year, but it ended up getting really sick the night before. And so I couldn't run it, but other than that, but the last actually few years, I haven't had too many injuries. So I try to read my body after a race. I usually take like a week off where I'm not running or doing something else, like a hike or something like that. So I try to, so far that's been helping me not get really injured. And so I'm like, I hope my knees and everything lasts just a little while longer, at least till I'm 40. So I can just kind of keep trying to hit my goals. So that's kind of what I do, as well as I make sure I take breaks throughout the year, especially after a race where I'm like, okay, I did a long, hard training block. I just need to take a week off where I'm not running.
Awesome.
Or doing anything hard.
Was that hard? So while you were going through having kids and things like that, was that difficult to run despite like knowing that I can be faster than this? Is that hard to run kind of below what you know you're capable of, or was that okay?
Yeah, and that's kind of how my whole thing has always been these last 4 years. I think to myself, I'm like, I know I can run. I just feel like I can still run faster, which is why I haven't given up or stopped yet. But but I just kind of, I feel like I still have room for improvement, and I still feel like I'm in the age too. I'm not too old yet where I can't, but I feel like there's just still more in me. And so that's why I just keep going after it and keep grinding it out. And hopefully my goals, I can hit my goals this year with races coming back on. Last year, I think I would have had a good year, but there were no racing.
It was so frustrating.
So, yeah.
So, what was that like? You know, someone who's so goal-oriented and who wants to hit these races, what's the past year been like where there were just so few races to be able to participate in?
Yeah, so I actually I was signed up to do the Salt Lake Half last year, and that was in April, and it got canceled. And so I just said, no, I'm going to go run my own half. So it was kind of lame, but I was like, I'm ready to run a half. And so I did it anyway. And so Riley actually ran the last 4, and Riley and Dave ran the last 4 miles of it with me. And I actually had a PR on my own. So I was like, well, that's encouraging. But
that's awesome.
It's like no one saw it, or I was like, but I don't care if anyone sees it really. I was just like, oh, I had a PR. That's great. So
that's awesome.
now it totally built my confidence I'm glad this year there's some races happening, hopefully still. So that I can see if I can actually do it in a race, get an official race time.
You get a medal and a t-shirt and all that fun stuff for it.
Yeah, that's why we do it. The medal and the t-shirt.
That's always funny to me when people are like, oh, the medals in this one are so cool. I'm like,
I don't pay. I don't pay attention.
Okay.
I know I have family members that are like, well, what's the medal look like? Like they sign up races based on the medal. No, that's fine. That whatever gets people out.
Right.
So,
Agree.
yeah.
True.
If it gets you moving, that's totally fine. But at the same time, it's always funny to me. I'm like, that's an interesting motivator. But all right.
Go for it. Yeah. Whatever gets them out. So yeah.
That's cool. Well, how is that? So you're married to one of the fastest guys in Utah, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty quick and holds a lot of great times. Yeah. Is that intimidating? How is that to be to have your husband be really fast?
No, I love it. It's not intimidating. It's more look how fast he is. I want to be that fast, but I can't. But I'm just proud of him. He's so good and he works really hard at it. Sometimes I get I'll run if I ran a bad half in the last couple of years, like I did a couple of years ago, and people are just like, you tried so hard. And I'm just like, I can do better than that. and so, but Riley, he'll say I love when people tell me that. He's like, I worked hard for this. And he's like, you need to remember that you did work hard for it. And it's okay that you grind it out and work hard. And that's a compliment when people say you worked so hard. And it's like, yeah, that's true. I did work hard. But no, it's not intimidating. He's been a good motivator. He, like I said, he helps me out of my spirals of when I have a bad workout, or he will go analyze my workout for me and say, no, look at what you did here. Look at what you did here. That was fast. That was good. And so he said, everyone feels crummy, has a crummy day. He's like, I do too. And so it's great to have him there because he's had a lot of, like I said, he's had a lot of hard marathons where he's had to give up and quit. So he's actually been more of a guinea pig for me because he found what works for him and then I use it. And so it works for me too. So, but it's been good. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. So are your kids getting into running? I know they're still young.
They're still young. Yeah. No, not really. They like soccer and we don't really push it on them because we secretly do want them to be, because we think that they could be good runners because they don't get tired ever.
They got some good genetics on both sides.
I was like, they think you could be a good runner, but I mean, you never know. But I mean, but we don't push it on them because we want them to like running. So we just let it come naturally.
Which I honestly think is best. Because that's kind of how you came to it as well, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't forced on you. And that's if you're a coach, don't make your kids run as a punishment. Make them sit out. Make them not be able to participate. They'll learn more from it than running.
Yeah.
And then they won't hate running. Anyway, there's my soapbox. That drives me crazy. Because I wish I could have gotten into running before. I think I, could have been at least decent at it.
Yeah.
And wish that... darn it, I didn't hate it from that until until much later in my life. So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, so if you had advice for somebody that is kind of in that same position, they feel like they've gained a bunch of weight, they feel like they used to run back in high school or whatever,
Yeah.
and they're kind of stuck in this, like, I'd like to get started, but I don't know how, or I feel intimidated to get going. What type of advice would you give that runner?
I always start with the shoes. Make sure you get, my first thing is with beginning runners is make sure you get shoes, the right kind of shoes that fit your feet. So either if they're stability or neutral. So make sure you have good shoes to start out, good training shoes. And 2, I'm a goal person. So set a small goal, whether it's to be just to finish the 5K, not worry about time or pace, just to finish a 5K, or to be able to just work up to like 5 minutes of running or 10 minutes of running at a time. Things when you're out running. Things like that. Just setting these small attainable goals, I think helps a lot of beginner runners, because they think, okay, I did it. I ran for 5 minutes straight. Now I'm going to try getting the 10-minute mark or the 20-minute mark and see if I can run for 20 minutes straight, or do the 5K and just kind of finish the 5K. So my advice would be just set attainable goals for yourself when you're first starting out. Make sure you have a good pair of shoes to get you there, but just to set these attainable goals for yourself and reach them, and then you can just go from there and keep building on that.
Yeah,
So.
I love that advice. All too often I see people set like I want to run a marathon this fall type goal, and it's like, whoa, you went from no running to a marathon in 1 year. It's maybe too big of a chunk to bite off. Like, let's set those small goals of like a 5K in a couple of months.
Yeah, or a 10K. Yeah, if you want more, but I would say
that you just don't set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for a bunch of little successes that build towards the big thing. Right. I like that advice. I think that's good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's always fun to hear different people's stories and kind of where they came from and where they're at. Awesome.
Hopefully it's coherent with my babbling. Sometimes I babble too much.
We all do.
Hopefully people can understand what I'm saying. But
no, that was awesome. It's always fun to hear people's story and hear kind of where you came from and how you got into running. I love it. Every runner's got a different journey.
Well, I think it's so easy to look at people that are really successful, like you and your husband, and be like, oh, I can never be like that. Or they must not have experienced any things that I've experienced. And then to hear these like very real struggles or these different stories. And, kind of like we mentioned in the beginning, everyone has their own story. Everyone has their own way they come to running, but we all have challenges. And so I love hearing your story, because being able, like other people being able to hear that really helps, right? I think we don't often realize how much like our own successes can help fuel other people in reaching theirs. And so like every story is valuable. Every story is great. So we really appreciate you sharing what you did.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us on the Running Unbroken podcast. Like, follow, subscribe, all those good things so you can catch us on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Running Unbroken. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and reach out if you or someone you know has a story to share.